Rudi often would say that this life is your spiritual life, which I always found to be exceedingly important, because so many people are trying to have a spiritual life that separates them from this life, that elevates them, that denies the pull of the material bodily experience. But it's all one thing. It's one thing. There's no two. Mostly, day-to-day life is borderline benign. It's like it's okay. Things are going on, you can get through the day, you got to get to the market, you got to pick up the kids, you got to do the things you got to do, you got to write the paper, you got to take the exam, whatever it is. Your days are basically okay. Stuff's going on. You can get through them. You know, you get 3 square meals, good night's sleep if you're lucky, you're happy. Mostly one can go through an entire day, an entire week, month, year, decade, life without ever once realizing that it's really happening. So often we are just living it out, following the demands of whatever comes up, making the money, paying the bills, taking care of business. Once in a while, there's a shock to the system, and that shock makes you stop what you're doing, look around, reflect on what this is. If everything is going along smoothly, there's often no indication inside that there's any other perspective on the what is of your life. But alter it in some fundamental way, in some sudden way, and you either look at it differently or you just go into a different gear. Different gears are fine. People do it all the time. They just go into high gear. You know, we have so much drama surrounding us now in the world, and I watch people on television responding to their various dramas, and for many of them you can just see that something horrible happens and now they're going to go out and be political, change the thing that made them crazy, that upset their well-being. Other people go, whoa. They just stop because they can't figure out how to go forward. They just stop. And something starts to take over in the real world. A kind of, I think it's best expressed as, what is this? What? What is really happening? What is really going on? It's a thought that can cross people's minds on occasion, but there are moments where it's like, that moment is very humbling. It really reduces you down into a not knowing entity. But a humble entity that is hungry for some kind of knowing, clarity, support, help. Something really, really that needs help. And what's so shocking about that kind of moment is that help arrives. It's hard to describe that help. It is a feeling. It is a awareness. It is something that comes through and just takes you in its arms. You may cry, you may laugh, you may wonder, but you know you're okay. It's a level of okayness that day-to-day life does not often provide. It's an undercurrent, for sure. Otherwise, we couldn't get through the day. But it's when this thing stops you in your tracks and takes you in that you understand okay is not just a subliminal force, it's a living presence. It's a living part of your existence. It has a sense of higher nature, that it's speaking to something beyond your normal day-to-day human activity, that it is another level of perception, consciousness, awareness that feels it has an overview. You're not just looking at it head on, you're suddenly experiencing your life with a kind of larger awareness that you can call insight or wisdom, a new level of knowledge, a new level of consciousness, higher consciousness. And all of these qualities allow you to get through your day in a very different way than you did before whatever incident occurred that shook you out of your general ease of being. Now there's something bigger operating in your life. And it may only come for a short period. You may only taste it. It may hang around for a while. You may begin to take it for granted. But then it will go away. And that's when the spiritual journey is really important. Because how do you get back to the what is? How do you get back to the thing that's always there that you suddenly have somehow stepped away from, or may feel that it has stepped away from you? In a way, that's spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is sitting still, feeling the quietude that brought you into that moment of life-altering shake-up, that brings you back to stillness, that brings you back to the unknown, that brings you back to the sadness and the suffering and the difficulty, or, if you will, the profound sense that you're in bigger hands. The stillness opens you back up to that. It reminds you that you are part of something so big that is so much more in control of your existence than you are. That is, in a way, driving this whole shebang of existence. And that it has your back. It's there for you. And so often you just can't know that until these big life-changing disturbances take place. And as much as they shake up the system and cause you suffering and grief, they bring you to the doorway of knowing that something is there in spite of all appearances. There is just something there that cares about you. You can sit and meditate day in and day out. You can sit in a cave and meditate. You can have this deep immersion in something greater. But Rudi would teach, and I was very caught up in this, that vastness can function for you and with you in the most minute, simple parts of your life, and how you treat the people around you, in how you relate to the activities, how much effort you can put out. You discover you have all of this energy, all of this guiding force in your life that you can use what he called the horizontal. So you can bring the vertical into the horizontal and have this exquisite experience of being alive. It is not always easy. Anybody who's been on this journey for any length of time knows this is not always easy. There is a dynamic at work that is full of demand and power. There are days that are more gentle. There are times you can sit back and enjoy the sunset. But there are also days where you've got to get safe to safety. There are days where you have to take care of other people. There are days where you are spent to the last drop of your energy and they're taking more. Excuse me. And there are periods in life that are really hard. And yet, this vertical comes into the horizontal and brings you the capacity to handle it all, to deal with life and all of its changeability and all of its unpredictability and all of its fearsome nature and all of its beauty and wonder. The vertical descends into the horizontal and lifts you into it. There is a place in which you realize that the vertical and horizontal are one thing. That there is never a moment where the vertical is not part of your day-to-day. There is a way of knowing that, an awakening to that, a realization that you are endlessly in the presence of that. You don't need a shock to the system. You don't need a powerful event. You don't need anything. You just begin this process of silence and you realize there is this gentle rain of awareness, always there, filtering through your life, inspiring your life, guiding your life, if you will. And you can also live totally in ignorance of it, just on the horizontal, not knowing, making terrible mistakes, having a life, the life that you are trying to guide yourself with totally with externals, totally with horizontal reference points. And that life will get you in trouble. And at some point, it shakes you up enough to look to the vertical. And when the vertical comes through for you, or when your mind opens to the vertical, you realize it has never not been there. No matter what, this vastness of being is the space you inhabit. Sometimes the horizontal becomes really unsupportive of normal activity, of ease of activity. Sometimes the horizontal acts up. And what would be picking up the kids, paying the bills, going to school, doing that, is all shaken up by the demand that the horizontal brings into play. We are in a time like that. We have had years and years of a generally benign horizontal. Things have been kind of gentle. You can live life kind of quietly and easily with, minor disruptions here and there. But now things look really kind of out of the norm, out of control. I'm speaking to you in the middle of what are some terrible fires occurring very close to my home in Los Angeles. My cousin and my nephew have had to evacuate their homes with their families. The evacuation is continuing and spreading around to people in areas very close to where I live. And, I talk a lot about things like global warming, which is a vast event that's occurring, and these are the eruptions that are starting to happen around us because of the changes and the transformations in the world. The downside of all of that is if you're caught in the horizontal, you will have a kind of great discomfort. If you are lucky, that horizontal will wake you up to this vertical that is also there. It will allow you to begin to see this in a more cosmically powerful way. We are not trapped in the world. We live in the world, but it is only a manifested foundational space that is deeply affected by and in relationship to this vastness of being. The world is full of time and space. The vertical transcends time and space. It's beyond it. The vertical, it's almost pyramidal going out that way. It's so big. It's so vast. It's so connected to what is beyond mind and comprehension. And it filters down into the vertical, into the horizontal. And if you want to live through a period that is coming to us, you need to open to that. You need to feel the presence of something greater in the midst of this more turbulent horizontal experience. I know that my talking about this stuff is disturbing to some people. If you live in the horizontal and you are having to leave your home or wear smoke masks or whatever it is you're having to do to deal with this kind of disruption, which is really in seminal stage, you're not going to want to hear this stuff, and you will blame the messenger, which is fine, I don't really care. But the message is really important, and the message is, look upward, sit still, open to that which is the support system, if you will, for all of the stuff that happens down here. We are part of something much greater, and we have to, not need to, we have to connect to the self, to the larger self, to the higher awarenesses and consciousnesses that transcend all of this and yet are in many ways the source of all of this. We have to live in the world, and we have to understand that this real world, the material world, is the spiritual world. That our real life, our daily life, is our spiritual life. There is a exchange, a dialogue, a communion, a interweaving of higher and lesser elements. We need to work all of that, and this practice that we do, or that anyone does who just sits still every day long enough to connect to that which transcends the daily grind. You have to find a way to do that. Sitting still long enough, asking inside for help to connect, if you will, to let go of your attachment to the ground forces and feel these higher forces and let them all work together. Let there be a natural harmonic dialogue between the transcendent and the immanent. That's our work. And if you can do that work, you will be very meaningful to everyone around you who is stuck in the horizontal. And that will be most people. And what you can do for those people, don't lecture them. Don't try to teach them spiritual work. Don't try to tell them to meditate. Don't do any of that. Show up, offer love, help, a room or a house to stay in. Whatever is needed, be available in the kindest way possible to let this energy move through you into the horizontal and let that come back to you and feed it back into the vertical. You will serve many people, and you will serve the very forces that are making all of this happen. This is a very dynamic time in the world and in our lives, and things are changing, and we are all going to be in the world of change. It's just beginning. These are seed forms on some level. This is fundamental, transformative period, and I think we all have to be ready to handle that. It's not easy for most people. It's not easy even if you have a quote-unquote spiritual life. This is a test, if you will, of that capacity of yours to be that which pulls this energy in and lets it flow out. You become a channel of righteousness, goodness, kindness, compassion, love, light. That's what we're doing. We are becoming that which opens itself more and more and more every day to this flood of necessary nourishment that the horizontal needs. It's very simple. And in the process, you will be working muscles and energies in yourself that you never knew you had. You will change and grow. You will become a very dynamic presence, a presence that dialogues with the world in a foundational and fundamental way. And it's really important. I don't know how many people will hear this message or understand this message or feel compelled by it, but I have to say, if ever there was a time for messengers, if ever there was a time for people to act upon what I'm saying, this is that time. And it's going to get more so, not less so. And even if we go through more periods of benign day-to-day life, which will happen, don't think that this volume of horizontal transformation is going to stay still. It's going to be very disruptive and in motion, and something very large is going on that we can help people through, and helping people through it will help us. The more you help, the more available you are, the more you will be helped as well. It's all symbiotic. We all work together. It's one thing working. And this is the time for that. You know, if you're looking to have a talk of non-dual stillness, where you're just, okay, that's fine. Great. But if your house is on fire, it's going to be different. Trust me. It will be different. Try sitting still and going, yes, as your house is burning down. Okay. I gave a talk a few months ago about this Buddhist monk setting himself on fire, and how I walked into a room with Rudi when the TV was on, and this guy was on fire, and Rudi looked at me and said, "You have no idea how hard that guy is working." I'm telling you, we're all having to learn to work hard. This is the time. Any questions?
I'm not feeling yet, even though it's very smoky and it's annoying. I just feel like my life is still in that very benign way. And so I feel like either I'm missing it or I'm
I'm talking early in the game here. So yes, that may actually be true, and it's wonderful. Just use this in 10 years, listen to this tape.
Yeah, I mean, and we just had an election that was very iffy, so it's not like, but it's not.
I know, and I think I must, in many ways, I must sound like Cassandra, preaching something that nobody believes or wants to hear, and that's fine. And I don't know why I'm talking like this, but my whole life I've been a dramatist. My whole life has been about movies, about death and resurrection and all of that kind of stuff. That's what I do. It's what I talk about. It's the Bruce dialogue. If it doesn't register or ring true or ring if it's not something you want to hear, there's so many other places to go to get the more pristine, quiet, loving, peaceful kind of spiritual dialogues. And I go.
What I'm really concerned about is, am I missing it? Like, maybe I'm just thinking things are comfortable and
No,
benign,
no,
and maybe
no, I'm not,
there's a
you're
lot
not,
more
no.
that I should be taking in. Like, there are.
Just stay open. Just stay open and stay aware. What I'm saying is a little bit ahead of the loop. You know, society is going to, you're going to watch, you'll see it happening to the degree you pay attention. Things will over the course of the next 20, 30 years become much more agitated in a way in the horizontal, and things will go on, and it'll be a really fascinating, incredible time. You know, I'm looking at my grandchildren and going, you're going to need so many skills, so many ways of dealing with the world. And my feeling is, forgive me, but many of these talks are to my grandchildren. I know they're to you, but I'm trying to talk to people 20, 30 years from now, assuming anyone will be even listening. I have zero idea. I'm not trying to be pompous about any of this. It's what's coming through. And I feel funny being the messenger of what sounds like gloom, but I'm not trying to make it gloom. I'm just trying to talk about there are forces at work, have always been. There are times in the history of the world that are really problematic and dark. And at the same time, there is something working here that if you have access to, it gives clarity to and consciousness to something that makes the world bigger than its suffering. It's something transcends its suffering, something really important, and it's available to all of us. And if you don't go there, the suffering is extreme. If you go there, the suffering is thy will be done, which is a different character. Mm-hmm. And I know that we need to know that stuff. I really don't like being the messenger. I don't know why this stuff is pouring through me in such a big way, other than it's this nature of this being to do that. So, poor Cassandra, I think about her a lot. She was making all these predictions to everybody, and nobody believed her, but she knew it all. Nobody believed her, and it all came to pass exactly as she said. And what could she do? Just sit there and watch it happen. Mm-hmm. So you make these predictions and you talk, and I'm not alone in talking like this in terms of the horizontal. There's a lot of stuff going on out there of people being very anxious, but taking it into the vertical is the mission. That's my mission. I want to make people aware that all of this rises into something that transmutes it into something very profoundly poignant and beautiful and still and beyond our understanding. So all I can tell you is, if there ever is a time to go beyond, to be able to know how to go beyond the norm of daily life, this is it. It's a good time. I mean, there have been times through the history of the world, and there are times right now in the world in all sorts of cultures and places that people are having much more difficult horizontals than we've ever imagined. But, there are people literally in caravans marching to our doors right now. It's not the end of it. It's the first wave. It's not even a wave. It's the first trickle of what's coming. We have to find a new mechanism, a new musculature to deal with all of this stuff and to lift it up, or to lift some of it up, so we can bring it back in and hug people in a way, hug other people, be with them. We don't even have to be obvious. We can just be nice.
I agree with what you're saying about where the horizontal is going. It's coming. And I understand staying in the horizontal plane, we're helpless. And we'll be overwhelmed by the suffering and just helpless in the face of it. And a need for drawing on our power. What I always struggle with, you use the words "Thy will be done." The alternative to suffering is an acceptance. Thy will be done. I've talked about this with other friends recently. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the difference between acceptance and passivity.
Perfectly put.
Because I know there is, but then that's what I'm struggling.
No, engagement.
Yes.
Engagement is not passive.
Yes.
Engagement is service. Learning to serve something higher is much greater than just accepting the what is. Now, not everybody has an ability to serve in that way, and a lot of people are struggling. How do I get my kid pick them up at school and get them here? And I mean, there's a lot of difficult, just day-to-day stuff, but finding a purpose in all of this, finding a force that binds you to it, that allows you to do all the stuff in the world, plus is, in a way, understanding that this life is your spiritual life. It is an active engagement rather than a passive, oh, okay, thy will be. It's not thy will be done. Thy will be done is get to work. That's thy will. Get to work. Do it. Don't just sit there and meditate out of it. I mean, it's fine. I don't want to criticize anybody for doing that. I think there's value in it. But the work is transmute the higher energy into something that actually impacts the world, and it helps people rise back up into a space that is embracing on some level. You know, it's not, I don't want to make it a bad Hollywood movie. I really want to make it something that is highly literate. This exquisite sense of that in my suffering, or in the world's suffering, or in the dynamic of what's going on around me, there is something so powerful, so exquisitely, poignantly beautiful happening. The suffering only comes because we're losing the wonder. Wonder's the wrong word. The materialized beauty of what was, or what is, that's being taken away. That's really hard, you know? We have mosquitoes in my house in Los Angeles, and we had a person come in to spray the house and said, this is global warming. We've never had mosquitoes. We have all these new insects and bugs infiltrating our lives. It's just the beginning. We have a bug zapper. A person living there got a bug zapper. I've never had a mosquito bite in LA ever. And all I go is I click, click, okay, this is happening. What do we do? Well, you can sit and complain, you can hide. Most people will ignore the fact that anything is going on at all until you have to evacuate your house. And then it's late in the game for the vertical to begin to assert itself. So if you can start to prepare in some way, or at least as a vessel of the vertical, be available to reach out and do the work. Do not just sit back and be passive, because passivity will not serve.
So you're not saying ignore the horizontal and look at the vertical. You're saying draw.
It's all one. It's all one thing. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Now look, that's one interpretation. I may be completely wrong, but like that Tibetan monk, I think he was Tibetan. In fact, it could have been a Vietnamese monk at that time. The monk who set himself on fire, and Rudi said, you don't have no idea how hard he's working. That's how hard we are going to have to work. Collectively, not individually, collectively. What is that? We've never been there. And I don't mean societally, I mean globally. It's a whole other thing. So what exactly do we do? Well, I'm telling you, this work of reaching into the vertical is phenomenally valuable, phenomenally valuable. And I would love to encourage people to do it and to find a way to be of help because of it, as a result of it. But even if you don't want to play with the difficulties or the problems of the world, this is still good. Even if all you're doing is helping people have a good day. You know, I'm not, the saving the world thing is, there's a dramatist in me. The helping the world is the gentler, better version of this. But in any case, helping the world when it's at ease and at peace is one kind of activity. Helping it when it's in hysteria is another. And then the muscle's almost the same, it's more dynamic. So.
I just wanted to say, for me, to bring the vertical here is gratitude. Because, I mean, at least that's the way I've been working with it, and having gratitude, no matter in what horrific situation there is. We went through the fires in Santa Rosa, and finding the gratitude in the fire kind of helped me also have compassion and service for the people that actually went through it, and helping them to see the gratitude in the fire for them, which is really way down the road.
Well, let me say, having the gratitude that your house didn't burn down is one kind of gratitude. But when your house does burn down, the work level is very different.
Right.
It's very different. And what we have to prepare for, in a way, is that a lot of our houses are going to possibly be dismantled in ways that we're not prepared for, and that's where but the gratitude is at the core. Gratitude is at the core. The love, the loss is about what the realization of what had been, the wonder, the beauty of what had been, and now it's being completely destroyed in a way. There's unbelievable loss in that, but the underlying truth of that is how much love was there for what was, and that love starts to transform itself into the what is. Love is love, and even though it's love for the loss, when the loss is gone and the vertical comes into play, it's nothing but love. The love just is like beyond. I mean, the love comes in surviving, and it also comes in not surviving. But people don't know that until there they are. But and I can't say that as 100% knowledge, because I haven't not survived everything so far. But my sense of it in my own inner journeys has been that love is at the core, gratitude is at the core, wonder is at the core, beauty is at the core. All of that stuff, those qualities are what we come from and go back to. And everything is about having it, holding it, losing it, and moving on. And that's what we all go through. You know, getting born into the world, being alive, tasting the world is an unbelievable thing. And the universe went through a lot of trouble to make it happen. But it also is impermanent, and it all gets taken away, and the loss of it is profoundly unsettling and disturbing, and yet you feel suffering because you loved it. And what you return to as you pass through that veil of tears is the very source of it was love itself. That's why you had a life. It wanted you to taste what you are. It wanted you to breathe what you are, to know who you are. That's what this is. This is that in crystallized form. It's just going to go, and it's still that. It just will be different. And you may want to come back again and just have it again, to hug people, to sit in a chair, you know, to look through a window. It's like, wow, it's like unbelievable. This is an exquisite gift, but it will only be for temporary time. And we may all go out at the same time on some level. That'll be unusual, but the world's in a very strange place. But anyway, one death and mass death all takes you to the same place. It's just you can go out, you being surrounded by loved ones, or you can go out with everybody holding hands. It's an interesting time. I think I'm going to stop. Thank you for putting up with me, putting up with this. I know it's it's not going to speak to everybody, but trust me, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, maybe it will be speaking.
Can I make one more point?
Yeah.
When we started working 50 years ago with Rudi, I mean, that's where you started this talk. It was the same message, you know, that you live on the horizontal, but you have to bring the vertical into it. We weren't dealing with global warming.
Right.
We weren't dealing with, you know, catastrophe on a major level. But the talk was pertinent to our everyday lives. And the work that we have done in this time has, you know, built a level of ability, or strength, or openness, whatever you want to call it, that, you know, makes it more possible now to deal with bigger issues. And so I think what you're saying is totally pertinent to everyone's everyday life.
That's my hope. That's my hope. I know you and I have been working for 50 years, and that there is an ability to, a muscle that can reach into time and space and beyond time and space that has developed over all those years, which is powerful. And I can feel it at work with everybody I'm with. I feel the beauty of it, and I'm grateful that I've spent my time practicing, you know, because it allows us to share something that I suspect needs to be shared. And of course, my other thing now is to want all of you to become people who are part of the sharing, to become the muscle for others. I really want that. So I'm trying to put that out in a big way. Thanks. Okay, thank you guys.